On October 1st, 2016, Todd Orr was attacked by a grizzly bear. Twice. This is his story. It was an early fall morning as I began my hike up into the high country of southwest Montana. 3 miles in, I spotted a sow grizzly and 2 cubs. She saw me as well and ran west with her cubs. Out of sight over a ridge, I waited about 30 seconds before deciding I could safely continue eastward in the opposite direction. A few steps later, a noise over my shoulder caught my attention. Turning, I saw the sow breaking over the ridge at about 40 yards, heading directly towards me. It was like the slow, rambling gait of the overweight trained bears in the movies. This was the real deal. She was in a full charge, with ears laid back and coming fast and low to the ground. A noise from behind turned me around. The grizzly was bearing down on me a second time. Instinctively, I pulled the bear spray from my chest holster, slipped out the safety clip, and yelled out so the bear knew I was human and would hopefully stop or turn back. No such luck. She was blazing through the waist-high grass with a speed I had never imagined. Within just a couple of seconds, she was nearly on me. I smashed the trigger down hard on the bear spray and gave her a full blast in the face, at about 30 feet. Her speed and momentum carried her through the orange cloud of pepper mist and onto me. I turned away and threw myself to the ground, shoving my face in the dirt. I wrapped my arms around the back of my neck and locked my hands for protection. The bear was immediately on top of me, biting my own arms, my shoulders, and my back. I could hear the crushing and the tearing of the muscle as her long canine teeth buried deep into my right arm with each bite. After only a few seconds, but what seemed like an eternity, she disappeared, coughing as a result of the bear spray. Stunned, I carefully picked myself up from the ground. I was lucky to be alive and to have survived a grizzly bear attack. The injuries were severe but not life-threatening, and isolated mostly to my arms, shoulder, and upper back. Quite assured the bear was gone, I headed back down toward the trailhead and my truck 3 miles below. I kept a steady pace, only slowing for a quick look at my injuries. My backpack had taken the brunt of the attack, but I still sustained numerous deep puncture wounds on my right arm and shoulder. The wounds were bleeding through 2 layers of clothing, but the flow appeared to be slowing. I knew I could hike the distance to the truck, and thank God for getting me through this alive. I really wanted to keep moving and put distance between the bear and me before stopping to address any wounds that needed attention. Within minutes, I felt clear of the danger, and my adrenaline rush was subsiding. Then a sudden noise from behind me. Turned around. The grizzly was bearing down on me a second time, and already within 10 feet. It happened so quickly that I had no time to use the bear spray again or reach for my pistol. Again, I turned away. The bear knocked me to the ground. I couldn't believe this was happening a second time. I was so lucky to survive the first deck, and now I questioned if I would survive this one. Again, I protected the back of my neck and the sides of my head with my hands and arms, and kept it tight against the ground to protect my face, eyes, and soft vital areas. The bear slammed down on top of me, ferociously, bit my arm, bit my shoulder, arms again, but with much more aggression than before. Force of each bite was like a sledgehammer with teeth. One bite on my left forearm went deep, and I heard the crunch of the bone breaking. My hand instantly went numb, and my wrist and fingers were limp and useless. The sudden flash of pain made me flinch and gasp for breath. The slight motion and sound triggered a frenzy of additional bites to my shoulder and upper back. I knew it was vital to avoid any further movement, or the bear was going to tear me to pieces. I focused my concentration to ignore the pain and remained motionless. Face down on the ground, more bites and claw swats to my head opened a 5-inch gash above my right ear, nearly scalping me. The blood gushed all over my face and into my eyes, blinding me. Still, I didn't move or make a sound. My concentration, will to survive an adrenaline rush, had completely blocked out the pain. But I could feel and hear the pressure and the tearing of each bite as the bear's teeth sunk deep into my muscles. She would lift me up off the ground and slam me back down, only to bite again and again. I truly thought this was the end. I feared the bear would eventually strike an artery in my neck and that I would bleed out there on the trail. Or she would flip me over, get to my face, eyes, or throat. But I knew that any movement would prolong the attack, so I laid motionless, hoping it'd end. I repeatedly told myself she would eventually leave to check on her cub's safety. If only I could hold on just a little bit longer. The bear suddenly stopped her attack and just stood on top of me. I will never forget that brief moment of dead silence, just the sound of her breathing and sniffing. I could feel and hear her breath on the back of my neck, just inches away from my spine. I even tried to hold my breath, afraid she would attack again if I moved or made a noise. Her 3-inch claws sunk deep into my lower back just below my backpack, where she stood pinning me to the ground. The terrible, pungent odor she emitted almost made me gag. For 30 seconds she stood there motionless, but crushing me. My chest was smashed into the ground, my face pressed into the rocky dirt of the trail. When would the next onslaught of biting begin, I wondered, but I still didn't move. My breathing deliberately bated. And then she was gone. That enormous weight that had lifted from my body. I wanted to take in a deep breath of fresh air, but I didn't know where the bear was. I wondered if she had left to check on her cubs, or was standing there just 10 feet away watching me. I waited another 10 seconds listening. Nothing. I feared I would never survive a third attack. I needed to protect my life. My bear spray had gone flying during the fray, so my pistol was the only defense. Staying in position on the ground, I slowly moved my right arm from behind my head and reached under my chest for the pistol. Nothing. It was gone. It had been ripped from my body during the attack. Now I was defenseless. Carefully, I wiped the blood from each eye, and with much worrisome hesitation, I slowly raised my head to look around, still fearing the bear would be close and attack again. Almost to my surprise, she was gone. The holster and the pistol were lying 10 feet to my side. The bear's attack had broken the webbing straps and torn the holster from my body. Blood was dripping from my head wound and off both elbows, and my shirt was blood-soaked to the waist and into my pants. With the bear apparently gone, I dove for the pistol and thumbed back the hammer, nervously looking around. Still no bear. I so hoped she was gone for good this time. I quickly picked up my scattered gear, grabbed the bear spray, and moved down the trail again, toward the trailhead. I couldn't believe I had survived a double grizzly attack. Blood was still dripping from my head and wound and off both elbows. After a quick assessment assured me the bleeding was not life-threatening and that I could survive the 45-minute hike to the truck, I continued down the trail, wanting to distance myself from the bear. I kept my left arm pulled in tight against my body to minimize the movement and prevent further injury to the shredded muscle, severe severed tendons, and crushed nerves and bone. Held my pistol tucked between my arm and chest for easy access if need be. The bear spray was in my right hand with the safety clip out. Twice I paused to assess my wounds. The slow rate of bleeding was still acceptable, so I didn't bother with any bandaging. If needed, I could administer first aid at the truck. 45 minutes later, I safely reached the trailhead and my vehicle. It was only 8 a.m., and I was concerned for the safety of bow hunters that may show up for the weekend and head into the same area. I attempted to write a warning note and post it on the bulletin board at the trailhead. Unfortunately, my injured arm was useless, and the note would be illegible given all the blood dripping from my other hand. My left arm was useless, and the deep tear in the deltoid of my right shoulder, along with dozen puncture wounds to my biceps and triceps, made it nearly impossible to lift that arm as well. Having reached my vehicle, the bleeding slowed. I now felt completely safe and relieved. I decided to take a few seconds to record the moment to share with my hunting buddies. I snapped a couple of quick photos and a video of my wounds, laid some jackets over the truck seat to capture some of the blood, headed down towards the town and the hospital, about a half an hour away. I stopped a rancher alongside the road and asked him to make a call to the hospital, informing them I was en route. "20 minutes later, a doctor, nurse, and a local sheriff's officer met me at the emergency entrance. I had to ask the officer for assistance in opening the door, putting the truck in park, and unbuckling my seatbelt. My left arm was useless, and the deep tear in my deltoid of my right shoulder, along with a dozen puncture wounds to my bicep and triceps, were making it nearly impossible to lift that arm as well. Once inside, the x-rays revealed a broken ulna bone in my forearm. Most of the other injuries were arm, shoulder, and upper back punctures and tears from the bears biting, and it took 6 hours to stitch closed. The 4 puncture holes in my right side just above my hip reminded me how lucky I was the bear only bit and released, and that her canine teeth didn't tear completely through the soft stomach tissue. 2 tendons had been severed in my left forearm, requiring surgery to repair the shredded muscle and reattach the tendons. Numerous nerves had been damaged as well. I expected many months of physical therapy to get the full use of my left arm and hand again. The 5-inch gash along the side of my head would leave a nasty scar as well. October 1st, 2016 wasn't my best day, but I am alive and so thankful to be here to share this story with all of you.